Boy, good luck with that. Okay, so my area that I was going to discuss was manpower, overhead, and overtime. Needless to say, this is kind of a a sensitive subject for a lot of people. A lot of guys are like, well, I depend on that overtime, and things of this nature. And it's, if that is the case, then of course we need to readdress what they're doing. So first things first, one of the most important missions we have is taking care of our equipment. When we have overhead available, we need to ensure our equipment has had maintenance done on it recently. Just as we hound our clients about the maintenance in their equipment, we need to hold ourselves to that same standard. Get the equipment cleaned and non-working equipment turned in. I think we've already kind of discussed this earlier, which kind of surprised me, but this was one of the things I wanted to bring up. Whenever we have overhead, the most important thing is our equipment, making sure that we get that equipment 100%. We all know worst case scenario is showing up on a job site and a client going, well, this is out of cal. Well, how come this piece of equipment don't work? Well, you just had one flown in and it don't work. Now what are you doing? It loses all respect for no matter how good a job you're doing out there. The client just instantly looks down upon you. So the equipment's very, very important when it comes to overhead. Next slide, please. So now for some of the meat and potatoes, and these are just general rules of thumb to help make your math easier. The majority of the guys in the company, if you ask them to take a day off in the middle of the week, hey, you know what? We got a job coming up Saturday, Sunday. Why don't you take, I don't care if it's Monday, Tuesday. I don't care if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, just it's whatever fits your needs and helps them out at all. And it's just to offer it to them, because chances are the majority of us are going to say, well, okay, hell, my tool belt will hit the ground before you finish your question. It's just that simple of ask that question. Hey, we got a job coming up this weekend. Do you want a couple days off in the week? Well, yeah. Can I have Tuesday and Thursday? Sure. I don't have anything on the schedule for you. Take it off. And have those conversations. Because if you never have the conversation, then you're dealing with overhead and overtime, and that's one of the worst case scenarios. When you're working from shop locations, overtime should be able to be kept to a minimum. We all understand that we get so busy that we're just constantly going. That's understandable. But with your scheduling and our jobs as management is to be able to try to alleviate that overtime as much as possible. Why not start sticking guys in 410s and say, hey, you three take Monday through Thursday, we'll take Tuesday through Friday, and it's covering the job Monday through Friday without any questions. So it just helps alleviate the overtime and prevents people from running into overhead and overtime. Next slide. So this little snippet here is taken right off of our estimating worksheet, and this will give you what your total man hours are on the job. Okay, it's very simple, and you'll see in the next slide, but I also put in there that it had the treatment time on how it would eat up your man hours based on the hours you were working. But you definitely want to go to your estimating worksheet and look at it and say, okay, is this listed as straight time? Is it listed as overtime? Is it listed as double time? Is there a percentage in there? When we estimate it for 10-hour days, we will put 80% on straight time and 20% on overtime. And that tells you that it was estimated at 10-hour days. So different things to be aware of. Can we go to the next slide, Ramona? So again, straight out of the sales estimating worksheet, you can see total hours. You can accumulate your man hours for the week and subtract them from your total time. This is a good basis for hour estimating. how you can keep track of the man hours that you've burnt and your burn ratio. The worksheet does this for you based off the burn rate. That's where apparently we've taken that burn rate off the estimating worksheet. I was not aware of that. Again, the issues lies with guys claiming hours you're unaware of. Well, you had me go to the store for tents, equipment, ice, water. I had to go to the airport, blah, blah, blah. It's just the fact of, you know, are you able to keep track of those? I know some of the guys that run jobs do not get to look at time sheets, you know, and there's hours put to your job that you are completely unaware of. So again, you know, there's certain things that you want to do to try and keep track of that, whether it be overhead or overtime. Next slide. Okay, now for me, this was one thing that Tony taught me when I started running a lot of the larger jobs, was a basic rule of thumb. If you calculate that each person on your job site that works for WES costs you $1,000 a day, and you stay under that estimated dollar amount, it's real simple math. There's nothing hard there. Most of us can do this without a computer, and you can sit there and count on, okay, this is exactly where I'm going to hit, you know, and stay underneath that dollar amount, and you will make your 50% profit, and you will finish the job on time. Again, this is a general rule of thumb. It cannot be taken into account for everything. If you're running more than 10-hour days, this is a bad calculation. If you're on a 24-hour outage, this is a bad calculation, you know, but for your larger jobs, it's very simple to say, okay, I have $80,000 for this job. That was the estimation. Okay, that's going to give me this number of guys for this number of days, or this number of guys for an extended number of days. It's just a real simple rule of thumb that you can quickly do that math in your head. And, you know, I use this number a lot when I get called and said, okay, Tim, you got this job. How many guys are you going to need? Quickly in my head, this is what I'm looking at. Okay, great. We can do that. You might be overmanned, but, you know, hey, if you need to send people away, please do it. You know, so next slide. So I kind of wanted to get into some different little responsibilities here. By no means is this written in stone, you know, and as I'm saying it, Matt's probably boiling in his corner like he was talking about. So different responsibilities, you know, the job lead, it's the job lead's responsibility to read all of the job information. You know, there should be nothing that catches him by surprise. When we actually get out on these jobs and, you know, we have all the different specifications. We can take the specifications. We can take the estimating worksheet. We can take the sales order. We can take the PO. We can take all of this together and compare it to what's on the site and say, okay, so this was missed in specs. This was missed in our estimation. This was missed in what the client was asking us to bid on. You know, these are all just different aspects that the job lead is responsible for all of that. Okay. Nothing drives me nuts more than, you know, a salesman saying, hey, we're going to go test this substation, but there's only one transformer there to test. You get out there, there's breakers, there's switches, there's air switches, you know, there's bus duct, you know, and it's not, you know, it should be him going out there and doing at least a walk down going, well, what about all this stuff? You know, because those are conversations that should be had prior to sales orders being generated to prevent us from doing these change orders. But then again, that's back to where we go to. It is our responsibility to help the client out. We're going to know a lot more than what the salesmen are. It's also the job's lead to understand the total man hours that have been allocated to that job. You know, many a time salesmen have come up with, well, it's going to take you 4 hours to test the transformer. That's what's on the estimating worksheet. Well, you get out there, it's a GSU transformer, and they want all this different testing done. No, this is going to be 2 guys for a minimum of 8 hours, or it's not 10 hours. So again, just the job's lead responsibility to understand what's being estimated there. to ask for and ensure the needed test equipment and correct number of personnel are available for that job. There's many different guys out, with all of us in the company. We all go to different job sites and say, no, I need 2 guys. The next guy says 3. The next guy says 4. Next guy says 5. It's to understand everything that's allocated to that job. So as area supervisors and regional managers, and the reason I split this amongst both of us is a lot of times the area supervisors are running the jobs and the regional manager is the one that needs to pick up these responsibilities also. One is, of course, assisting in getting the job lead or the area supervisor his required equipment and personnel. Next thing is job review, the job specifications and requirements to ensure all items were not missed or overlooked and are being discussed. A lot of times it's like, yeah, this is on my radar, this is on my radar, this is on my radar. Well, who are you having those conversations with? Well, nobody. It's just on my radar. I haven't lost track of it. Well, what the fuck? If they're not bringing it to anybody's attention, how are they supposed to know that, hey, this could be issues or this could become issues or so forth and so on? Of course, then to ensure that, we're looking behind our job leads and saying that, hey, you're not overmanning the job, you're not undermanning the job. Again, this is not a total encompassing. We send guys out there for training. Yes, we are overmanning the job intentionally, but we can also put their time on training instead of, eating up the man hours for that job. Can we roll into the next one, Ramona? So here, this is basically regional manager. His job is to ensure that the job requirements are being met. Realize that the regional managers, 9 times out of 10, or Matt, the VP, is the one getting the phone call from the client saying, hey, your guys showed up and half-assed everything out here. So obviously we're not meeting all of our clients' requirements. These requirements, sometimes they go way out the window, out to lunch. Sometimes they are very, very minimal. But, it's up to the regional manager to keep reviewing those and saying, hey, are you happy with everything that's going on out there? Are you okay with all this? To call up your job leads and or your area supervisors and say, hey, I just want to check on this job and the progress. How are we doing? Where are we sitting at on our goal? Where are you targeting everything where you're at? Do I need to pull manpower away from that job? Do I need to get you more manpower? What do I need to do? Then, of course, upon completion, review the jobs, do an after actions review, like we used to call it in the military, and just sit down with them and say, hey, you tell me, what were some things that we've done really good there? What are some things that we could have as a company, not just the company, but your supervisors, the people that are getting you your manpower, the people that are getting you your test equipment, what went well? What can we improve on? What can we do for communications with clients that was going to help us out in the future? And just all these different after actions reviews that we can go through that we need to use as learned lessons. We can't just, keep blowing jobs off, hey, you know what? We made 50% on this $1.5 million job. Great job. Hey, whoever led that job was outstanding. Well, let's bring that to the table and discuss it with everybody. What were some things that you done out there that made this go so good? Or guess what? We have a $10,000 job that cost us $15,000. What went south on that? Everybody needs to get together. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of us need to get together and we need to sit down and have discussions about that. What did we do good? Where did we mess up on? What was missed that nobody in our chain of command caught? Needless to say, I know that the area supervisors, the regional managers, and the vice president do not have the time to do this to every job. Realize that these things are supposed to be done on a spot check basis. The higher up the chain we go, the less spot checking he will be doing. Matt actually does more spot checking than the regional managers, but that's because he's covering so many different areas, and I know that Matt is doing that. So on to the VP, ensure the area regional supervisor and areas are meeting their goals on the overall. It's not his job to nitpick every job in that area. That's what the regional supervisor's for. It's not his job to nitpick every job that every guy goes out on. That's the area supervisor's job. We don't need to do all that. Uh, is there a certain area that is constantly upside down? Hey, you know what? You're making only 20%. There's something going on that we need to have discussions about. And then, of course, communication between the job lead, the area supervisors, and the regional manager. So them three are that is one single crew, and it is Matt's job to carry our complaints or communications up to sales and say, hey, these are things that, you know, we can work on. These are things that field service can work on. How is field service working with sales? How is sales working with field services? We want to use our chain of command in that and ensuring that, hey, sales is not just underbidding everything and we're out there killing ourselves. We're not out there just eating up these larger jobs and going back to sales and saying, well, you underestimated this. Well, are we doing our jobs? So the smaller jobs, a lot of the smaller jobs in local areas, a lot of those can be done with just a note to sales saying, hey, you know, this was something I seen on this job, not a big thing. Okay, hey, I'll make sure we correct that next time. Or sales coming to us going, hey, what about, you know, this transformer is completely different than any one we've done before. What do you think that's going to do to us? That's day-to-day communication that should be happening between sales and our at least area supervisors higher. But consistent miscommunications on estimating and field services, we have to get the chain of command involved with that. You know, I tell my area supervisors all the time, if you have issues, bring them to me. Let me deal with sales. And first thing I do is I go to Matt and I talk to Matt about it. And Matt tells me, hey, Tim, this is something you can handle on your own, or let me take this up the chain, you know, because this is something that consistently happens that's not getting fixed, and we need to fix that. So, again, just different levels of responsibility that I want everybody to be aware of on our overhead, our overtime, and our manpower. If we can go to the next slide. So in closing, it's our job as the management team to help the team and the company as a whole to control this overtime and overhead. Needless to say, if gone unchecked, a dog will wander for days, you know, and that's exactly what we don't want to happen with our guys. You know, some of them get upset about it. Some of them are like, hey, no, great deal, give me a day off. Plus, realize that what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop the leadership of tomorrow in this company. You know, I am not going to be here forever. I know that. I don't want some bonehead stepping into my position and just ruining everything that we've tried to accomplish so far. And then, of course, I think last slide. So this was something funny I caught on the net. I thought it was a real good explanation of basically us and employees and trying to get everybody on the same sheet of music. Any discussions or questions or comments about this? Sorry, I was only left with 14 minutes. I tried pushing it in there as quick as I could.
Good job, Tim. Thank you.
Good work, Timmy.
Nice job, Tim. That was a lot of great information in there, and you know, a lot of good food for thought. The one thing that I would add is, especially because we're talking about project, you know, how to manage a project, and as well as, you know, the overtime and everything, and also trying to, you know, make the best use of our overhead. Overhead is fine. We just want to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. You know, what's our return on investment? One of the things that we do as supervisors, managers, is it's our responsibility to make sure that we're also developing everybody, you know, professional development. And Tim talked about project planning and coordination and everything. Those are great opportunities for learning experience, especially for maybe some of your more senior people to take a submittal and have them do some of the homework, have them go through these submittals and identify the things that are particular to a project that we need to be aware of. and you know, and you go through and you're looking at it, and if you see areas that he may have missed, you know, have that positive feedback to him. And that's something that, you know, that we talked a little bit, and I've been kind of stressing, but you know, over the next year is something that I want to make a priority for us is, you know, training and professional development. That's the thing that's going to help all of us. What I would say is that the bigger the project, you know, if it's a one-day project, it probably requires, you know, an hour, 2 hours of pre-planning and review. The bigger the project, the more the revenue that's coming in, the more that we have to take a look at the project requirements, project submittals, and the lack of that. And the further out in advance that we need to take a look at those. You know, don't wait to the last minute to start taking a look at that information and think that that's going to be successful. Every hour that we spend on a project and we do pre-planning, that's going to help us actually execute. You know, have schedules, have, you know, markup drawings. I think Jason had you know, one thing last week where he had a drawing where he marked it up and where's my lockout points? What, you know, what equipment are we going to be testing? These are the things that tie into this week, talking about how do we manage overhead? How do we get the best bang for our buck? And then how do we go out onto a project and get, you know, minimize overtime? Overtime is managed by a couple different things. One is to fully understand what our scope is, don't overburden it, and make sure that we're doing the change orders and everything else like that. But overtime is also, you know, we can minimize overtime by how much we plan for it. How much do we prepare, not only us as site leads, but the team as well, to make them understand and be aware of what is it that they're going to go out and do. What particular job are they going to go out and do? You know, if you got a job and it's got transformers, breakers, and this and that, and you say, Matt Thomas, you're going to be doing circuit breakers, he's already prepared to do that in the morning. He's heading to the trailer, grabbing the high current test set, the cables, and that stuff, you know, and it's not one of those things where he's, you know, hands in the pocket waiting, hey, boss, what do you want me to do today kind of thing. So nice job, Tim. A lot of great information and a lot of value in there. I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Okay, so I guess, gentlemen, we're at the point where our meeting's concluded unless there's any more discussion or questions for Matt. All right, gentlemen. So if you want to continue to edit open orders, it's going to be available until tomorrow before close of business. If you can make sure you have your edits there. And I will get the copies of our test equipment to Jason so we can get that on Dropbox. Are there any other needs before we end today's meeting? All right, gentlemen, have a good day.
Thanks for your time, everybody.